Hello and welcome back to All Things Money. I'm your host, David Blain. In the first segment, we talked about sell in May and go away. Will it work in 2012? If you missed it, head on over to our website, dlblain.com. We'll have the archives posted there in a week or so. Or you can email us at allthingsmoney@dlblain.com or give us a call, 252-633-0107. Sell in May, go away. We think for the majority of investors out there, long-term investors, it's a nice thing to read about, but it would not take any action. So then we started talking about the high cost of kids' sports. We're trying to give you some good advice. Parents out there raising kids, we've been talking about college, some other things. You're trying to balance your own savings and investing, retirement, things like that with raising kids, which can be very expensive. And so today I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the high cost of kids' sports. Once again, this is, for me, this is not theoretical. I experience this every day, every week, kids wanting to do this activity, that activity, always needing money for this and that. And these sports and activities get extremely expensive. You've got the cost of equipment, and then, of course, the hidden cost of traveling. We don't really get into the travel sports, but I know from talking to other parents, some of the soccer leagues, they're in Raleigh and Wilmington. Well, for those of you on the web, that might not mean much, but we're talking about 2.5, 3 hours away to go play a soccer game. And these travel ball teams, a lot of times they'll go to a city, they got to stay overnight. It's a hotel. They'll play 1 or 2 games on Saturday, 1 or 2 games on Sunday. You've got hotel costs, you've got food, you've got entrance fees, et cetera, et cetera. It can become very, very expensive. Picked out a few of the sports that I think are some of the most expensive. And the number one, which my daughter is very interested in, is horse riding. It's one of those things that if you have to ask how much it costs, you may not be able to afford it. Parents end up, you got to pay for private lessons, equipment like horse saddles, bridles, crop, boots, things like that. Not to mention, if you actually own the horse, you've got the upkeep of the horse, the food and the brushing and the housing of the horse, things like that, vet bills, renting, if you don't have your own barn, renting a stall. It can be extremely, extremely expensive. Even if you don't have your own horse and you just show up and use somebody else's horse, it can become expensive. The riding equipment, the lessons, as well as these competitions. There was an article a couple weeks ago about Bill and Melinda Gates, the CEO of Microsoft, world's first or second richest man, how they were at, his daughter is really into horseback riding, and they were spending $50,000 to $75,000 on each of 4 jumping horses. She needed to take 4 horses to this competition, $50,000 each, and it was said that Bill spent like $1 million renting a home because he and his wife wanted to go down there while his daughter was competing. And apparently she's very good, not to criticize that, she does very good. But he spent like $1 million renting a home near this facility where his daughter was riding, and it can really get expensive when you rent a multi-million-dollar home to watch your children do sports. Anyway, next on my list was ice hockey and figure skating. I know here in North Carolina it's not real popular. I know we've got the Hurricanes over in Raleigh has raised the profile of hockey in the area, but I didn't grow up here. Where I grew up, a lot of people played ice hockey, and it can be very expensive sports. The equipment alone, the skates, very expensive, and the lessons can run very high for especially for figure skating. A lot of pressure. Any sport that is an Olympic sport, you see a lot of pressure on parents putting on children to become, an Olympic athlete. Things like gymnastics and tennis and some of those sports. There's a lot of pressure on the children, and so those all entail private lessons. Gymnastics. This was surprising when my children did gymnastics for a while. Once again, the private competitive gymnastic lessons are very expensive. Once again, it's that whole thing of trying to push the kids into becoming a champion gymnast. Gymnastic camps, Bella Caroli, one of the Olympic trainer, $475 for a week. That's pretty expensive. Here's another one. Last year, or the past decade, lacrosse has been the fastest growing sport in America, believe it or not. It's gaining a lot in popularity. Both boys and girls play lacrosse, and its prominence has really been coming up. And it is a very expensive sport. It says here the gloves, helmets, shoes, goalie pads, things like that can set a parent back $650. The girls' version does not allow body checks, so there's a little bit less equipment, but it can still be very, very expensive. Other sports that can be expensive due to the private lessons include golf, swimming, sailing, things like that. I already mentioned sports like baseball or even soccer, where if you got some shoes and a ball, doesn't seem like it would be very expensive, but when you start getting into the travel, some of the teams have high entrance fees. Just to be on the team, you have to make a significant financial contribution. There's a baseball team over in Raleigh that the parents pony up, I don't know, $500, $750 or something just to be on the team there in North Raleigh. So anyway, just the point of that is parents, don't jeopardize your own financial future and keep an eye on those expenses. The sports and activities of children can really run into some serious dollars if you're not careful. Well, that's all the time we have for this segment. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Apple and its tax bill.